All right, good morning, everyone. Hopefully we're all in and good to go. So I'm happy to have so many of you here, so thanks for joining us. My name's Jillian. I'm an English as an Additional Language Specialist at the University of Victoria in the Centre for Academic Communication, which is our writing centre, if you haven't visited us before. So this workshop today is about online learning and success in the Canadian context. So the outcomes for today. So we'll talk a little bit about the pros and cons of online learning. So some of you might be new to online learning, some might have done it before, so you might have some experience to share. Thinking about your role as an online student as opposed to having been an in-class student. We'll learn some strategies for academic success in the Canadian online learning environment, learn how to communicate effectively online, and set some goals, hopefully, for a successful fall term. And if we have a little time at the end, I'll give you a little tour of the Centre for Academic Communication online as well and show you how you can book appointments there with us. So we support students' academic communication skills in all areas: listening, speaking, reading, writing. And we're currently offering both written feedback and real-time appointments. So just before we begin, just to tell you a little bit about myself. So like I said, I'm an EAL specialist at the CAC. I've been there for, I think, coming up on 6 years now. I'm also a TA for English 135, and I'm a third-year PhD candidate in curriculum and instruction. So all of that is happening for me online right now. There's my email address. So if you have any questions or you need to get in touch for any reason after the session, please feel free to do that. I've been teaching for over 12 years, English and ESL and English as a foreign language in Canada and South Korea. And until recently, I was the CAC's primary distance tutor. So we do have quite a few programs at UVic that are entirely online, and were online before March. So I was doing all their distance tutoring. So now I have some help, so that's nice. And just personally, my online distance learning experience, I did my first TESOL certification online. So I think that took me about 6 months, and that was by distance. And then I also, more recently, I think I finished it in 2016, an editing certificate through SFU, which was partly distance and partly online. So I'm not sure if anyone's kind of clear about the differences between those. Sometimes you get like a stack of paper in the mail that you have to then send back, so that's like distance. And then some of the courses were completely electronic and online as well. And apart from that, I'm in Victoria right now. I'm from here. So I was here and did my bachelor's degree at UVic before I left to go first to Ontario and then to Korea for 6 years, and I've come back. So if you're not here already, I really hope that you get to come and visit us someday. It's a really, really lovely place to live and work, and UVic is a great place to be. I'm also a proud cat mom. So there's my cat Buster. He is, around, so you might see him sort of walk in front of the screen as we're here. One of the hazards of learning online these days. So what about you? So I'm wondering, where are you right now? So I should probably start with that first question, or the last question first. So is this anyone's first time using Zoom? So you'll probably be using it quite a lot in the future. So there should be, if you go into participants, there should be some functions there where there's a little hand that you can raise that I'll be able to see in the sidebar. So if anyone wants to raise their hand or use the chat to say like yes or no, if it is your first time ever using Zoom. Maybe not, maybe we're all experienced users now. Okay, so if you do have any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself and just ask at any time, or you can ask in the chat bar as well. What about, where are you? So maybe hands if you're outside of Canada. 4, 5, I'm just seeing the counts right now, 14. Okay, so a lot of you are not here right now. So it's probably either like late at night maybe for you. Awesome. Okay. Cool. Okay. So thanks for joining us from wherever you are. And I should mention too, a lot of you have your video turned off. If you want to turn them on so you can see each other, it's kind of nice. Your instructor probably we'll give you an option. There are a lot of people that don't have a good workspace right now, so they should be fairly understanding of that. But it's lovely to see your faces, and from an instructor's perspective, we really miss seeing you. So yeah, if you don't mind turning on your video, I like to be able to see your faces. So thank you. I can see Lindani and Andy. It's nice to see you. Thanks for joining us today. If you don't have that option, and there's Swapnil, great. If you don't have that option, I notice a few of you have a photo instead of just a blank screen, so that's a really nice option as well. Kind of your instructor can, see a little bit of your personality, during lectures and maybe get to know you a little bit. Anyone, is this your first? Oh, I'm seeing where everyone is. Great. California, Puerto Rico, India, South Africa, England, China. It's 12:30. Okay. Slovakia, Nigeria, Alaska, Washington, Bangladesh. Wow. Okay. Wonderful. Thanks, everyone. Is this anyone's first year at university at all? First time attending classes? Okay, so at least a few. Is this anyone's first time? I'll wait for that one. No, yes, yes, no. Okay, so a few yes, a few no. What about first time learning online? So anyone taken online classes before? Is it your first time? Okay, so a lot no. Online since January. Yep, nope, nope. Great. Okay, so I'm going to get started with the sort of main content of the session now. So if you have any experiences to share or any questions or anything, I can't see the chat over here, so feel free to chime in if there's anything that you want to add or you have any questions as we go. All right, let's get started. So I thought we'd start with just things we'll start with the positives. What do we like or think that we might like about online learning? So those of you who have experienced it before, you might have some things that you find to be positives about it. And those of you who haven't before, is there anything that you are anticipating that you think might be really great? So you can just use the chat as well to send me an answer if there's anything that any of these are the pros. Introverts feel more comfortable. Good point. Yeah. Accessibility, yeah, so accessibility is a big one. So if you missed anything, there's usually a recording. You can learn at your own pace, commuting time, comfortable spot, not commuting. Okay, so basically, yeah, accessibility. Okay, I agree. So I put in a few of my own as well. So I think we're probably on the same page. So flexibility, so if you miss something, there is probably a recording that you can catch up on. Accessibility, so again, the recordings and being able to learn anywhere at any time, that can be a real plus. And I said the same thing. So I'm wearing pajamas right now. You can't tell because you can only see me from here up. But it's pretty great. Okay, so more flexible. Okay, and then someone said so comfortable that you can't focus. So yeah, we'll get to that in a minute. And then Sankar said, what I like is we are doing something meaningful in this dire period. So I think that's such a good point. Yeah, I think we were just talking about, online enrollment in the States, I think has gone down quite a bit, but in Canada, I think we're still quite good. People are managing to fill their time with something that's, meaningful and, useful to do. Hopefully when we all come out of this together, we're in it together now, we'll all come out of it together and, you'll have completed a few courses and, not be behind, and it won't all have been for nothing. So I think that's a really, really good point. Okay, what about challenging? Is there anything that you have found challenging in the past or anticipate being difficult? And then hopefully we'll try to address these things during the session. Time zone, unreal interactions, it doesn't feel quite the same. Internet connection, being self-directed, focus, feeling lonely, time zone. Okay, so I think about the same. Personally, when I was taking classes online, I found the group work a bit difficult. I was in one group where one group member just disappeared, and I don't know, there's no classes, so I mean, they never show up, so you can't find them. Um, and so that's something that you need to bring to the attention of the instructor at some point. Um, Someone mentioned too, like getting a quick response to a question, so you can't approach your instructor after class anymore. Probably, hopefully, if you do have some real-time synchronous sessions, they will leave some time so that you can speak to them, maybe at the end, but it's not quite the same. And finding a good place to study or attend a synchronous class event. So I am in my dining room right now, which I moved from the closet because somebody's sleeping in my office right now. So it can be a bit difficult to find a good space, or like someone said, maybe your space is too comfortable, and maybe you get distracted by other things that are happening in your house, laundry and so on. And someone mentioned too much exposure to electronic devices. Yeah, that is a big challenge right now. So hopefully your instructors and you are managing to find a bit of a balance. So we can talk about that a bit too. Have to live like Batman if you live halfway across the globe. Yeah, I can definitely appreciate that. Yeah, too much screen time. Okay, so there are some challenges, definitely some pluses. So I'm going to just share some tips, and there are some resources at the end for further reading if you're interested. So these are hopefully some ways to mediate a bit of these issues that we've brought up. Lots of agreement on the side. Yeah. Great. Okay, so my first tip is to treat the course like an on-campus course. So if you are on campus, you would be attending class 3 hours a week, probably, and then you'd be spending time in the library doing research. You'd be spending time, commuting. You'd be spending time, typing up your notes and studying and doing assignments and everything like that. So don't assume that it will be easier or that it will take less of your time. That maybe you can take on an extra job or something like that, just because the course is online. So what we are finding is that sometimes the online courses are actually taking more time than the face-to-face ones were. So just make sure that you're budgeting that time, and that you do make the effort to show up to the synchronous sessions and to participate fully in the class. So I'm guessing probably at least 5 hours or so a week. That would be like a sort of a minimum of time that you should be spending per course. I'm not sure if anyone has anything to add at any time. Just feel free to jump in. I'm not sure like what's happening with courses that have labs and things like that right now as well. That's probably I'm not sure how those are happening, but that's going to add on some time and might be different as well. So this one, number 2, is pretty tricky. So some of these tips I found from resources that were, pre-COVID. So a lot of these things just sort of aren't possible for a lot of people right now, with everyone working from home. So it's to create a regular study space. So, maybe just add a little, caveat to that, as best as you can with the resource that you have. So if you can find a quiet spot, or, get earphones or headphones, so that you can, eliminate as much outside noise as possible. Hopefully you can get a comfy chair and a writing surface. After 2 weeks of writing at my dining room table, I had to break into my office and go and steal my office chair and out of the library and bring it back to my house. So yeah, not ideal in the beginning, but hopefully you can make something work. A good internet connection is, as I understand, easier said than done. Mine, ours is pretty good, but it cuts out again sometimes just for no reason. So hopefully everyone has, a good enough connection, or I understand that some places it's better at certain times of day. So hopefully that's working out more or less okay for everyone. An appropriate background for online meetings. So like I said a minute ago, I was in my closet, so I had some boxes and things behind me, so not ideal. My computer doesn't allow me to set a virtual background, which some of you probably have experimented with, is an option in Zoom on some other devices, but not on mine. So, to the best of your ability, that should be okay. And then a way to keep your resources and course materials organized. So I think for me, that's the most important, that my space is, I have a space where I don't have to move my space back and forth a lot. So I can keep, all my books in one place and my notebooks sort of like a little office as I would have had. Okay, so some points about, studying online and the work permit, and then, instructions on how to set the virtual background if you're able to. Okay, and then some labs are scheduled late at night. Yeah, so I understand like a lot of you are probably struggling with the time, seems like a major one. So I definitely sympathize with that. So at the end, maybe you have some tips for each other on how to manage that issue a little bit. So moving on to 3, so minimize distractions. So I'm not sure if anyone's tried any apps or other techniques for so these ones, Cold Turkey and Freedom, can help eliminate distractions by blocking the apps or websites that tend to compete for your attention. So I definitely, I like to work offline as much as possible. If you mentioned that it's too much screen time, so if you do, just want to print off your readings maybe and take a notebook and get away from your computer completely, keep your phone off, that's a great idea. But if you're too tempted, there are some things that you can do to actually prevent you from being able to access, Instagram or Twitter or whatever while you're in your work time. And do put your phone away during synchronous class events. So, your instructor can see if you're looking down and texting during them. If you were in a real class, this goes back to tip 1, treat it like a real class. If you're in the real class, your instructor wouldn't appreciate you being on your phone during a lecture or a class time. So do try to set that time aside to just be in class. Great, so Forest is another app Nabila mentioned. I've heard of that one. OneNote for organizing notes. So we won't get too into the technology in this session, but if you just a quick Google search these days, there's lots and lots of resources out there if you are interested in investing the time to figure out which one works best for you. Lots and lots of options. And then Allie's asking, how do I understand which virtual background is the most appropriate? I think from what I've seen, I've seen people using like a Starry Night one or a palm trees on a beach. I think pretty much anything that you choose is probably okay. The ones that are available are probably class appropriate. Ed agrees Forest is good. Simple virtual backdrop. Yeah, you can upload your own picture. So a picture of your bookcase. I know a few people who have done that. They have a photo of their office, so it looks like the office, even if they're not in the office. So lots of good options for that. Thanks for those comments. All right, and again, maybe easier said than done, but try to do one thing at a time. So researchers have found that people who are regularly bombarded with several streams of electronic information can't pay attention, recall information, or switch from one job to another, as well as those who complete one task at a time. So I'm not sure if anyone has some tips for sort of how to keep that organized. Usually, and I would do this probably in real-time classes as well, is try to dedicate like half of one day just to one class or one assignment and try not to be switching back and forth between them. I think I'm terrible at doing way too much research, so I will tend to end up with like 50 tabs open on my screen with research for several different classes, and it's very, very difficult to manage. So I do have an app that actually like condenses it'll condense all my tabs down into one sort of string, so I can arrange them by day and go back to them. So I found that really, really useful. I think it's called one tab or something like that. I can take a look at the end, but that really helped me to sort of organize myself and sort of limit my time to that one thing at a time. Erica says schedule time in your calendar. So I'm using my Outlook calendar too to set aside blocks of time, and it works most of the time. pretty organized. Good. And new Google can classify tab, new Google Chrome. Great. Good to know. All right, I'll check that out. Thank you. Okay, so getting into a bit more about your role as a student. So tip 5 is be proactive. So hopefully everyone knows what being proactive means, taking action, before something terrible happens, or, before there's a problem. So if you don't understand something, don't hesitate to contact your instructor, your TA, someone else in your class, or someone else in your network to help you. So hopefully your course will have a forum for questions, or your instructor will have office hours. Do use those. So that time is set aside for you. And it's, without the real-time setting, that's kind of the only avenues that we have right now for asking questions. So do make sure if something comes up and you need more time on an assignment, if you need an extension, if you get the instructions and you right away don't understand how to proceed with, writing a paper or something like that, ask early. Make sure that you notify your instructor early, ask for that extension, clarify whatever it is you don't understand. Checking here, one tab, yeah. So Rowan, that's the one I use as well. Yeah, works well for going back to old collections. I absolutely agree. And Sarah's got the link there for immigration questions. Great, okay, so communicating online. So if you do need to email your instructor, I'm just gonna go over a quick little how to do that in the best way. So number one, I would say the answer often is in your syllabus, or you can ask Google. So try to find the answer yourself first. And if you can't find it, that's fine. But do definitely try to find answers, especially about the class, first before you ask. You don't want your instructor to get bombarded with a lot of questions that the students could have found themselves. Do use your instructor's formal title until told otherwise. So it's good to err on the side of being polite. In Canada, we first use the title doctor or professor with the person's last name, their family name. So depending on where you are in the world, your first name might come last, or it might come first. In Canada, we go first name and then family name is last. So you'll be using the last name. So my name is Jillian Saunders. So I would be Professor Saunders. And then I said, until you're told otherwise. So usually when you send somebody an email for the first time, they'll respond and they'll sign it at the bottom with the name that they want to be called. So if you call me Professor Saunders and then I email you back Jillian, then it's okay to start using my first name. So that's kind of my rule of thumb. Yeah, so there's a question, how do we know if classes are synchronous or asynchronous? Some instructors are a little slow. I know a lot of them haven't decided yet quite what is going to happen. If that is the case, that's a bit unfortunate at this point, but hopefully they'll get that sorted out soon. If you don't find information soon, do go ahead and look them up and email them. And then question about what's the preferred salutation, dear or hello or hi? That's a really good question. I think any of those is okay. So in Canada, we tend not to be super, super formal. So like dear would be the most formal, but hello, Professor Saunders, hi Professor Saunders, those would be fine as well, as long as you spell the name correctly. So that's really important. So if you're not sure, make sure that you've got that down. And then Amina is asking, so we should not wait to be told to call them their first name. I think usually you should. Usually an instructor will say in the first session like what they want to be called. If not, you can definitely ask, but I would definitely suggest going with the more formal until you're told that a less formal form is fine. So I hope that answers that question. Do write incomplete sentences and use a formal or semi-formal tone, especially in a first email, until you kind of get a response email and you can kind of gauge the tone that the person that you're writing to is using. Do identify yourself. So in the first line, remind them of your name, your V number, course number, and a section. So don't assume, you know, especially with everything being online these days, it's difficult for instructors to, you know, even more difficult to match names with faces and so on. So it's good just to remind them of who you are and what course you're in. They might be teaching multiple classes. And there's a question: to use Ms. or Mrs. first name in Canada? The answer is not in post-secondary education, only for like elementary and high school. So from kindergarten to grade 12, you would call your teacher, you know, Mrs. Smith or Mr. Smith. But at university, it would be professor is probably the most common one. If they have a PhD, you should call them doctor, but professor is probably the safest term. Good question. Clearly state your purpose for emailing. So I'm emailing you because, and at the end, thank them for their time. So there's lots of good resources. So I found this is kind of a nice little template. There are a couple of resources, you know, if you Google like how to email professor, there's tons of good resources out there. This second one is where this template comes from, and the numbers, if you go into that article, they've numbered, you know, sort of what each piece is doing. So it's, you know, dear professor, the person's last name. 4 is a line that recognizes our common humanity. So it's something like, I hope you enjoyed the weekend is completely appropriate in the Canadian context. And then some, you know, identifying where you're from. And then I've looked at the syllabus and at my notes from class, and I asked someone, and I think this is the answer, but I'm still not sure. So that shows that you as a student have, you know, been proactive. You've tried to find the answer. You can't find it. You still need some help. And then lastly, this is the action I would like you to take. So be specific about, you know, here's what I need you to do for me right now so that I can proceed with my learning. Okay. So that's it for communicating by email. Tip 6 is be persistent. So this is a weird time for everyone. There are probably going to be some setbacks and challenges. It's might be a little bit harder to access, you know, support and help right now, just because we are all, you know, separate. We're all in separate time zones. If you have a class problem and it's 2 in the morning where you are, you probably won't be able to, you know, get in touch with someone in, you know, say the ISS or the Center for Academic Communication or counseling or whatever it is that you need at that time. So, so try to have some kind of plan for how you'll deal with that. So if you get a poor grade or negative feedback, if you have a plan in place for how you'll react and how you'll move forward and do better next time if you receive some news that's, you know, unexpected or not what you were hoping for. So this is really important. So this is kind of, you know, a characteristic of students who are successful and students who complete their degrees, is understanding that, you know, things will go wrong and, you know, and for everyone. And, you know, it's an isolated case, and it's most important is how you move forward from that. How do you learn from that experience and go forward? So questions on the side. So do we usually ask our professor, how are you? That's a really great question. So the how are you, if you haven't actually been inside Canada yet, is what we call kind of a rhetorical question. So I mean, it's polite, you can definitely say that, but usually we don't expect an answer. So, you know, if you do ride in Victoria and you pass people on the street, or you pass, you know, your classmates in the hall, they will say, hey, how are you? And then they'll just keep walking instead of waiting for you to respond. So it's kind of a greeting. When I lived in Korea, the greeting was, have you eaten? And I was, at first I was like, what? Yeah, like a few hours ago, but like nobody is waiting for me to, you know, give an answer to that. It's just like a polite, like, I hope you're okay kind of greeting. So I'd say probably a more appropriate would be like, I hope this email finds you well, or I hope you've had a good morning, or something like that. Something maybe that's, you know, because the question isn't going to get answered. They're probably not going to answer it in the next email, but still an appropriate thing to ask. And then, yeah, or open a letter like, I hope you were doing well. Yes, I hope you were doing well. I think it probably is pretty universally an acceptable way to answer a letter. Yeah, I know it is tricky. There's some like little quirks of like Canadian interactions and so on that might be confusing. And then Ali is asking, do we say greetings in Canada? Sure, it might be, I don't know if it's the most common thing to say, but yeah, you absolutely can. And if you have any more questions like this, feel free to get in touch with me later, and I can definitely send you some resources. Like a quick Google search will say, email salutations in Canada. Will give you a list of like good things to use in your email. So it's nice to just kind of have those handy. They're really standard. There's not a lot of variation. So you can be sure of having a few standard phrases and using them all the time to write your emails in a way that's polite and appropriate. And then a question about chats. Is it, yeah, how are you is fine. It's, yeah, that's probably, and when we first got on this morning, that's probably the first thing we said to each other. So yeah, definitely appropriate. Okay, I'm just gonna put my email again in here, eal1@uvic.ca. So maybe we'll have some more time at the end for some of these questions. So save them up. I'm gonna make sure that we get through the rest of this content for now. But thanks for all your questions. Yeah, these are all, and things that probably your professors who live here don't realize are different in other countries, a lot of them, and so don't even don't know that their students need to be reminded of these like little intricacies of communication. Good question, interesting question. Okay, I'm going to answer this last one because that's really interesting. So Ian says, sometimes profs say, good questions. That's an interesting question. What are the criteria for considering questions good or awesome? That is I'm not sure how to answer that right now. I think I might just table that to the end. So I mean, those words, good, awesome, interesting, a lot of that is just sort of like an acknowledgement. So like when someone asks me a question that I don't know the answer to, sometimes I say, oh, good question, or that's an interesting question. So the following up to that might be, I need to think about that. So Yin, that is a very interesting question. I might need to think about it for a minute. I'll try to come back to it at the end. All right, and be a participant. So like, I love all the questions that are coming in today. So I hope all of your classes, your students are everyone else in your class is disengaged and asking questions. It's great. So research does say that students who participate regularly in online discussion groups and forums are more likely to complete their courses successfully. So especially since we're all kind of separate right now, do try to create as much of that community as you can. Make sure you set aside time each day or each week to check your course forums and discussion tools, and to post and to respond to your classmates. So in the absence of an actual classroom, that's sort of the best we have right now. So like some of you at the beginning mentioned, feeling a bit isolated or lonely. So do try to get as much interaction as you can out of the tools that are available right now. And then how to communicate online. So in forum posts. So I'm not sure if everyone understands what I mean by forum. So you have learned online before, or you probably, I don't know, they exist for all kinds of hobbies and sports and all different things. So you probably have come across them in some form. So this is just a shot of this is the Center for Academic Communications forum, where this is the old Course Spaces shell. So we're in the process of transferring over to Brightspaces, but if you want to chat about anything related to academic communication, we have this forum. So you can post a question in there at any time, and one of the CAC staff will respond to you. So this is kind of what it looks like. So the topics are down the left-hand side, and then you can see who started the topic. So sometimes we start a topic to get some discussion going, or sometimes a student will, and then we'll all try to respond to it and kind of create a bit of a discussion there. So some rules of thumb for using forums well. And someone's asking, can you send the link to the forum? Yes, I can. I can give you the link to the CAC site at the end of the session for sure. So use informative headings. So you could see in that screenshot that I just showed you down the left-hand side. Don't set the heading as just like question. Try to be as descriptive as you can so that people will read that and think, oh, I'm interested in talking about that, or I have an answer to that, and respond to you. So not response to week 1 reading, but rather why I agree with Freud's theory of dreams, or something a little bit more descriptive is nice. Remember that the forums are a dialogue, so you're not going to put a whole essay in there. So they're usually fairly short. Check back frequently to see if someone has responded, so you can kind of have a little bit more of a conversation. And if someone does give you some information, or post an opinion that changes your mind, don't feel like your opinion has to be your opinion forever. So if you want to change your mind, that's totally fine. You can say, yeah, that's a great point, I hadn't considered that. Maybe I'm ready to change my mind about that. That's completely, that's science, that's what it's for. And then again, it's not an essay, so keep it short. So nobody wants to read more than 1 or 2 paragraphs, usually in a forum. Your instructor might set limits for how many words or how long it should be, and try to limit yourself really to 1 idea per post, not more than that, and then use evidence and examples to support those ideas. When you're responding to someone else's post, so often the forums are set up where the criteria is that maybe you have to post once per week, maybe in response to a reading, and maybe you have to respond to 1 other student in the class. So these are some tips for the responses. So first, make the context clear. So if you're responding to an original post, maybe like quote that piece of the post at the beginning, so everyone knows exactly what it is that you're responding to. And make sure that you're adding value with your response. So don't just say, I agree with so-and-so. It's good to explain why you agree, why you don't agree. If you can add anything of additional examples or your own experiences, that's a great idea. And then there are a lot of questions you can use to keep the conversation going in a polite way. So you can say, I wonder why you think, this about, this topic, or can you explain or clarify what you mean, by this term, or, with what you've said here. So that's kind of a good way to, create a little bit more of a discussion happening there. And then in general, because nobody can see your face, so it's a good idea to identify your emotions and responses. So if you can, articulate, like, I feel confused about this, or I feel strongly, something like that, I think that's a good idea. And they're a little less formal than essays, so definitely feel free to use a smiley face, or a little thumbs up, or something like that once in a while. You want to still aim for like complete sentences, but I don't think there's anything wrong with a little smiley face here and there. And then Yoon's asking, are these applicable to both undergraduate and graduate levels? Yes, I would say so. Yeah. Yeah, these are probably pretty general tips that could be applied to each. Your instructor probably has, maybe there might be slightly different guidelines for how the forums are meant to operate for a specific class, but the mode that I mentioned is pretty standard. Are these applicable to both graduate students? Do graduate students use, oh, somebody's learned how to write on the slides. Good for you. And how to erase. Yeah, so I mean, if you do have something to say and you want to write on the slides, you're absolutely welcome to. We enabled that in case, but there's so many of us that there's not enough space, so I didn't mention it. But yeah, that will be an option. So yes, I think graduate students will use forum discussion as well. It's kind of the only, the main way that we have to have synchronous discussions with each other, with others in your class at the moment. So in my experience, yes, all my classes have had discussion forums. And then Mina is asking, what about smiley face and emails? Yes, I think 1, maybe like limit it, but yeah, especially. It can be difficult, like, I'm not sure how to articulate this, but if you're emailing about something that maybe you're upset about your grade, or something that you're worried might come across as too strong or a little harsh or something like that, yeah, I don't see anything with putting in a little smiley face just to show that, you know, you're not angry or something like that. But do try to limit it, and maybe make sure that it will be recognizable. Like when in other countries, the smiley face is like, we usually use the, I can type it here. In Canada, we do that. But in other countries, it's like a little, I don't know, I can't even find them on my keyboard, and a little, you know, like carrots and things like that. So do use one that will be recognizable. I got all kinds, and like there's, my students would send me ones with like, I don't know, it's like a pig or like different like little things. So those are a bit overboard, but a simple smiley face I think is fine. Yes, that one. Yeah. Sure. Yeah, I think any of, yeah, that those little triangles, we don't use those in Canada, so your instructor will not recognize that as the smiley face. Oh, so many fun emojis. Yeah, I love it. Okay, maybe just go with the simple ones. Okay, and so if someone does post someone in the forum that you respond to emotionally, oh, someone have a question? No. If they're, you know, they may have said something that offends you, or that you feel really strongly about, it might be a good idea to just like hang on to it for a minute before you send it. So this is, you know, general rule for, you know, communicating on, you know, Facebook or like anywhere on the internet. So I'm sure you see, especially right now, a lot of people's emotions are really high about certain things like wearing masks or, you know, certain things. So, and you might have encountered quite a few like little nasty back and forths on the internet, and we don't want to create that atmosphere in a classroom at all. So, like, yes, it's possible that someone will write something that you really strongly disagree with, or makes you really unhappy, but do make sure that you consider your answer really carefully first. So if that happens, what I like to do is to write out my response, so I know how I felt about it at the time, and then just set it aside for a little while. So an hour or like a day, and then come back to it. You can ask one of the tutors like myself or one of our other CAC tutors to take a look at it and like make sure that it, you know, it doesn't sound, you know, that it sounds that the tone is still okay, because it's fine to disagree with somebody. That's absolutely fine. But we don't want to do it in a way that, you know, creates bad feelings with your class or anything like that. And you want to be, you know, in an academic setting, a bit objective, and, you know, make sure that you supported your points well. So we can definitely help with that, or sometimes, you know, just to ask a friend to look it over and make sure this is okay to send. So that's a good idea. So I hope that doesn't happen, but it might. And then use questions again to keep the conversation going. So again, try to, you know, have a discussion. So I wonder why you think that, or can you explain or clarify what you mean? And then someone is asking, would it be moral to report them for bad conduct if there had been words of offense? That is a really, really good question. Ideally, your instructor or your TA should be monitoring that forum pretty closely. So they should be able to recognize when something has happened that's not appropriate. If that's not the case, I would say it's probably okay to send your instructor an email and, you know, maybe quote the part of the text that you think is inappropriate, and just notify them that, you know, so-and-so has said this in the forum, and, you know, I don't appreciate it, or, you know, I disagree and I don't think they should have said that, something like that. So I think it would be okay to bring that to your instructor's attention if it's not addressed. So that might be a way to deal with it. And then Yin's asking, is there any chance we can improve our grades? So I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. I mean, like, study hard and and participate in your classes is, you know, how usually you get good grades. Maybe if you want to talk more about that, maybe we can have a private chat later. Okay, and then 8. So we're going to get into some goal setting, hopefully. So set goals for the term, the week, and the day. So we want to manage our time really well. Make sure they're SMART goals. So that SMART stands for specific. So we don't just want to, you know, have a goal like, I want a better grade. That's not very specific. It should be measurable so that you can know when you've achieved it. achievable, so don't set something that's impossible for yourself. It should be relevant, so related to something in your classes, and then it should be time bound. So like by Friday, I am going to do this, something like that. And then don't forget to reward yourself for completing those goals. And then, so together with that, this kind of end piece, I'm just wrapping up here. So, don't be a lone wolf. You're not, all alone out in, internet land by yourself. It might feel that way. Do try to build a network of contacts who can be your community while you're learning online. So there are lots of options available. So who can you include? Maybe just quickly, if anyone has any ideas in the chat. So people who are in your community are your instructors and TAs, obviously. It might be your classmates. It might be your friends and family. You're at home, you've got people around, hopefully. The ISS is there, and the Center for Academic Communication. Is there anyone else that anyone has in their community that can help support you in your online learning? Any other options? So Swapnil mentioned that he was, communicating more with his friends that were outside of Canada right now. So, it doesn't have to be, people who are here and in classes with you. It can be really anyone. And then Chair's asking, what do you mean include? I just mean, so that you don't feel alone, that you're people that you can talk to about your classes and, problems that you're having or questions that you have, anything like that. So this list that I've kind of got here is your, communicate. I don't mean cite. I mean like your community, people that you have a conversation with. Citation is like a, a research issue. Great. Andy says history students have a society. A lot of other disciplines have too. Yes, they have clubs. They've got Facebook pages. Absolutely. Graduate students might have a research group. Yeah. Okay, so I think, Yin, you're asking a lot of questions that I think maybe aren't like directly related to this workshop today. And they might be questions for maybe Sarah or Cecilia, but if you want to email me some of the questions, I can try to answer them later. A lot of these are maybe we don't have time for today. Law Graduate Student Society, yeah, I think there definitely is. Yeah, so take a look. There are lots of like online communities that are already like really well established and up and running. Great. And so the purpose of the community is partially to keep yourself accountable. So once you've set your goals, it's a good idea to tell somebody what those goals are and then invite them to celebrate with you when you achieve them. So, have an idea of who's going to get involved in your learning. That's what I mean by community. So a parent, sibling, classmates, friends, someone who, can kind of be on your journey with you and celebrate your successes and, boost you up when you have some challenges or setbacks. Great. Undergraduate and graduate societies, a WhatsApp group. Yeah. And you like tip 10. Great. I'm glad. Okay, so I think we're just about out of time. So I think I'm gonna skip this for today because there are so many of us. I was hoping we'd have time to share, but I don't think we will. But definitely like take this away with you, and hopefully maybe set some goals for yourself, even for this first week. So a goal that you can set for this term, for this month, for this week, and for today. So for example, that might look like, this term, I'm going to get all my assignments in on time. So that's like hopefully an achievable, manageable goal. This week, I'm going to go through all my syllabus information for all the due dates, put them into the calendar, keep that calendar at my desk, set reminders in my phone for a week before so I don't forget anything. And then today, maybe you'll create an account at the CAC, find out how to book an appointment online. Okay, and so those are my resources. So what I'm going to do now, I've got about 5 minutes left. So I'm just really quickly, oh, there you all are. It's wonderful to see you all. So I'm just going to get into, hopefully, need a different, how do I get? Nope. Sorry. I want a new window. Okay, so I'm hoping to just really quickly share with you how the CAC works. Okay, so if I just search for UVic Center for Academic Communication, go there. Everyone can see my screen and CAC okay right now? Following along? Great, okay. So maybe this will be, your goal just for like today. So the Center for Academic Communication, usually we offer face-to-face tutoring. The sessions are 25 minutes long, or you can book 2 per week. So for 50 minutes, you can book them together or at different times. And basically what we do is offer support in all forms of academic communication, mainly writing assignments, which is mainly, what we're all doing right now, but everything else as well. Presentations, we offer feedback on, graduate students preparing for thesis defense, really anything like that. So what you're going to do is register for an account, first of all. Once you've got that, we've got 2 available schedules, so you can either get written feedback or you can meet online. So once you go in there, so this is our schedule for this week. We still have appointments available. So if you do want to, meet with me or get feedback on, an email you need to send, or get some sort of like preliminary feedback on your writing, you're more than welcome to do that. So the green spaces are the booked appointments, and then the white ones are available. Anything gray has either already passed or we don't have a tutor available for that time. Oh, there's the cat. So if you want to book an appointment so you can see who your tutor is, if you're to navigate to our website, we've got sort of bios for all the tutors, so you might be able to find someone a bit more in your area, or most of our full-time staff are TESOL certified. We're English as an additional language teachers, so if you want specific really feedback about like grammar or those kinds of issues, word choice and so on, you can definitely do that. So there's me, I'm on today. So you click on a white space, and then you get a new appointment. So you say what course you're coming for, what you want to work on, what are your concerns, and then you can upload a file. So once you put your file in there and you create the appointment, it'll be in there, and then your tutor will go in and check it, and then they'll give you some feedback. So we type our comments, use the comments feature in Word, type the comments down the side. Usually we can cover 2 to 3 pages in about 25 minutes, and then you'll receive that back by the end of the day, usually by 6 or 7 p.m. at the absolute latest. So we're doing same day turnaround right then. So you'd book an appointment for any time sort of before noon or 1, and then you'd get feedback by the end of the day. And yes, you can ask for comments on writing since right now. Yeah, so we usually shut down a little bit. So we've only got a few tutors on right now, our full-time staff, but starting, I think, about the 3rd week of September, we've also got about 8 to 10 graduate student tutors who've been with us for quite a while. So they'll also be on the schedule. So when you check back in near the end of September, you'll see there's at least probably 4 or 5 tutors on every day. And if you ever can't find an appointment, you're welcome to email us, and we'll try to squeeze you in. The other option is to meet online, which we're not offering this week, but if we go into last week, so these appointments are pretty similar. So for real-time appointments, again, you'd select a space, book the appointment, and then there are links to our rooms in here. So at the time of your appointment, if you booked at 3 o'clock, then you would, if you booked at 3 o'clock with, who is that, Emily, you'd come back at 3 o'clock, click on Emily's room, and then you'd meet with her in Zoom. So, and then the screen sharing is enabled. So it's almost like face-to-face tutoring, where you put up your document and you can ask questions and talk in real time with a tutor. So those are the options. Yeah, there's the booking site. Thank you. Okay, and I've got 1 minute left. So thank you all for coming. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer those either by email, or if anyone needs to unmute and ask an urgent question now, I'm happy to stick around for a few minutes.